Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James. It's Friday. It's Tag Friday. I'm going to do the Shakespeare Journey tag. This is an original tag for Shake-tember, which is an event created by Books I'm Not Reading, and Old Blues Chapter and Verse, and A Day of Small Things. All very fun channels that you should check out. I've been tagged by the great Pat at Book Chat with Pat. Um, I gotta tell you, I was gonna do this one anyway because I remember last year I was not on BookTube, but watching people do this tag, I said that looks like fun. I It kind of got me started thinking about doing or starting this channel. So anyway, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Day of Small Things lady. I'm sorry, I forget. But anyway, here I'm going to do this tag. They all relate to William Shakespeare, who was a famous poet and playwright. Here are the prompts. Number one, what was your first experience reading Shakespeare, and what was it like? Well, in public schools on Long Island in the 1980s, I think most people did kind of the same curriculum, at least as concerns Shakespeare. So in ninth grade, we read Romeo and Juliet. In 10th grade, we read Julius Caesar. And in 11th grade, if I'm remembering it right, we read Lear, Othello, and Macbeth. I may have it a little mixed up, but I think that's the way that it went. So my first experience was ninth grade reading Romeo and Juliet. I remember being excited to first read Shakespeare, whom I had heard so much about. Also being somewhat baffled, but eventually finding my way into it through use of the very generous annotation. This was my first experience that I can recall of reading something that had so much annotation. So many notes explaining what these words in English mean. Yeah, and it was in a great big textbook. Romeo and Juliet in there with a whole bunch of other short stories and poems and things, and had illustrations of brother Lawrence and Romeo and Juliet. The characters in Romeo and Juliet. All right. Anyway, prompt number 2: has the reading of a Shakespeare play ever brought you to tears? What scene was it, and where were you when it happened? Do you want to sit down here, Louise? You can join me. Come on. Come on. Come on. There you go. There you go. There you go. All right. All right. Yeah, let me sit with you. Okay, good job. Has the reading of a Shakespeare play ever brought you to tears? No. But stand by, maybe. Maybe today. Number 3. Are there any people that have played a significant role in your Shakespeare journey? So obviously my 9th grade teacher and my 10th grade teacher, who hated me, and my 11th grade and 12th grade teachers who I think thought it was fine. So yeah, and also my sister Laura. I have 5 sisters. Laura is one of them, and she became enamored of acting, and at a certain point became very fond of Shakespeare and got involved in the Shakespeare theater scene in South Florida where she lived, and eventually became a director. So I will. So she had just. This was 10 years ago, and she had just directed her first play, or had finished preparations for directing her first play, and she very suddenly, well, as sudden as how it happens, she had an aneurysm and did not recover. So it was, it's a bolt from the blue when something like that happens. She was 34, was starting a new I knew Journey in her life. Her play was about to be performed. It was eventually performed after she had passed, and it was a production of Comedy of Errors, not a great Shakespeare play. So my hat is off to her for choosing that one to get started on. Um, so last year I went through all of the Shakespeare plays. I read all the plays, all the poems, all the sonnets, and you know, and I've been reading Chekhov and Ibsen and things like that. And so many times I've thought about reading these plays, how much I would have liked to talk to her about about them because she was so passionate about, especially Shakespeare, but other classic theater. So yeah, so my sister Laura. Let's see. Number 4. Do you have a favorite book or film about Shakespeare? Um, I like for a film. I like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. Not really about Shakespeare, but I do like that. A book about Shakespeare that I really like is this one, Anthony Burgess's Shakespeare. This is his sort of biography, sort of study of Shakespeare. It's, you know, the chapters kind of can stand on their own as essays, but it all does sort of hold together. So if you can find a copy of this, like I also recently acquired and have not read yet, but Anthony Burgess's historical novel about Shakespeare called Nothing Like the Sun. Look at this uh, British hardcover price of 21 shillings. So I will read that someday. Let's see. It's waiting for me. Let's see. Which character in Shakespeare most resembles you, and in what ways? Now, I saw the new channel Reader of Books, and he said that he got offended by this prompt, and I don't get offended, but I do find it hard to pick one that doesn't make me sound grandiose or something. You know, in my well, obviously Mark Antony. You know, or you know, I'm not quite old and portly enough to be a Falstaff. I'm not clever enough to be a Hamlet, but I would say a lot of the minor characters kind of speak to me. The unnamed soldier who attacks the Duke of Cornwall in Lear. There's a I can't remember his name, but there is a particular clown role in Twelfth Night, and maybe it was just the production that I first saw it, and he plays a mandolin, at least in this production, not in the text, but who I found quite clever. The character of Jacques or Jacques in As You Like It. Was he in As You Like It? Yes. Kind of like him. Anyway, so that's the way of not answering. Which play would you like most to see performed in a theater and why? I have not seen as much Shakespeare performed in theaters as I would like. I've seen an Othello, I've seen a Macbeth. When I lived in New York, I saw a couple of the Shakespeare in the Park productions, but they were kind of odd plays. One was Merry Wives of Windsor, one was, what was the, Troilus and Cressida. While I was there, they did a production of Henry V that had Andre Braugher from Homicide and from Brooklyn Nine-Nine in the title role, and that was a very hot ticket. So I never got to see it. I really would have liked to, and especially recently, my wife and I have been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, in which he plays it's a comedic role, but he plays kind of a universal straight man in it, and he's fantastic. And it really makes me wish I could have seen him playing Henry V. So yeah, let me say Henry V. I'd like to see performed in a theater. Also, I mean that is one that kind of more than other plays makes explicit reference to being staged in a theater, which is kind of fun. All right, Next prompt. What actor throughout history would you most like to have seen play Hamlet while in his prime? I've seen a lot of answers. I have the best answer, which is Richard Burbage, who was the first man to play Hamlet. He was part of Shakespeare's company. Um, and there is in Anthony Burgess's Shakespeare a chapter called Royal Deaths, which describes what a performance of Hamlet with Richard Burbage at Shakespeare's theater would have been like. Dick Burbage playing the lead as ever, and the biggest and most eloquent lead there has ever been, is in black, like Essex at his trial, and he is busy with paintbrush and delicately mixed colors on the faces of the two boys who are taking the women's parts. The backstage area is crammed, there are parts for everybody. And then there is also Will Shakespeare, who is making up for the ghost. At 37, he is gray enough. He needs but little art on his receding hair and his beard. He has walked hither from his lodgings in Silver Street. So this part of the ghost reminds him how much death he has seen. This year his father, not so many years ago, his son. He, a living father, is about to play a dead one. And it goes through the performance, and at the end you have Shakespeare himself comes out and gives a little bow. Yeah, so I would say that I would most like to see Richard Burbage, because as a bonus to seeing Richard Burbage perform a Hamlet in his prime, you would also get the benefit of time travel to see a play in Elizabethan London, and you also get to see William Shakespeare himself playing the ghost. So, giving you 2 for 1 there. Okay, number 8. Deliver your favorite speech or soliloquy from a Shakespeare play. All right, I wouldn't say that this is my favorite, but it is a special one for me, and I'll tell you why. So I told you about my sister Laura. The last Shakespearean role that she performed on stage was Titania, the Queen of the Fairies from A Midsummer Night's Dream. And when I was preparing to read through all the Shakespeare plays, I started gathering. I don't like reading a giant collected works tome, so I got a bunch of good editions, a handful of Folgers, a bunch of Ardens and things. So I have this Arden edition, which I got secondhand, and I'm looking through it, and it was apparently used by an actress at some point to prepare for this role of Titania, because all of Titania's speeches are highlighted. Certain lines are stricken through, I guess to tighten up the performance to make it shorter. So, yes, from one Titania to another Titania, or to a Titania's brother, I have this book. I'm going to read to you one of her speeches from Act 2, Scene 1. She's speaking to Oberon about how... So Titania is the Queen of the Fairies. Oberon is the King of the Fairies. They are a feuding couple, and they also have power over nature, and the kind of squabbling between Oberon and Titania is about their extramarital dalliances, of which they both have several, but it's interfering with the fairies' job of moving the seasons along, and so the weather has gotten out of order because of all these jealous rows that they're having. So here is Titania. These are the forgeries of jealousy, and never since the middle summer's spring met we on hill, in dale, forest, or mead, or paved fountain, or by rushy brook, or in the beached margent of the sea, to dance our ringlets to the whistling wind. But with thy brawls thou hast disturbed our sport. Therefore the winds, piping to us in vain, as in revenge have struck up from the sea, contagious frogs, which falling upon the land... Let me do that again. Therefore the winds, piping to us in vain, as in revenge, have sucked up from the sea contagious fogs, which, falling upon the land, hath every pelting river made so proud that they have overborne their continents. The ox hath therefore stretched his yoke in vain. The ploughman lost his sweat, and the green corn hath rotted ere his youth attained a beard. The fold stands empty in the drowned field, and the crows are fattened with murrion flock. The 9 men's morass filled up with mud, and the quaint mazes in the wanton green, for lack of tread, are undistinguishable. The human mortals want their winter cheer. No night is now with hymn or carol blessed. Therefore the moon, the governess of floods, pale in her anger, washes all the air, that rheumatic diseases do abound. And thorough this distemperature we see the seasons alter. Hoary-headed frosts fall in the fresh lap of the crimson rose, and on old Haim's thin and icy crown an odorous chaplet of sweet summer buds is, as in mockery, set. The spring, the summer, the childing autumn, angry winter, change their wonted liveries, and in the mazed world, by their increase, now knows not which is which, and this same progeny of evils comes from our debate, from our dissension. We are their parents and original. So, that is Midsummer Night's Dream, Act 2, Scene 1, Decline. Prompt number 9. Do any of Shakespeare's plays intimidate you? If yes, what play and why? My answer is nope. I'm not intimidated by a play. Next question. What tips would you give to intimidated readers coming to Shakespeare for the first time? I would say you get a decent edition with annotations and with plot summaries. I like the Folgers. I think strikes a good balance between some that have if you get one of those big complete works, it probably has very few annotations. Something like the Arden, I think a lot of the annotations are, there's lots of them you see, but a lot of them are not really helpful to a first-time reader, and you might spend more time looking at that and getting confused than reading the play. The Folger editions, it has a summary at the start of every scene, and then on the facing page it'll have explanatory notes about language that would not be immediately obvious, or references that a modern reader might need help with. So be okay with getting plot summaries. Don't feel like you have to get everything the first time you go through it. And watch the play performed. Go on YouTube. You can find. Trust me, I watched everything on YouTube when I was reading all the plays. I also watched them all. Sometimes you have to find some very strange off-brand. I watched maybe it was Measure for Measure or A Winter's Tale. I filmed on a camcorder of a amateur production in a public park in Portland or something. But anyway, you can find them all there. And for something like Lear or Macbeth, there's probably dozens that you can find on YouTube right now. Anyway. Number 11. Which is your favorite Shakespeare play and why? My favorite is Hamlet. I think it's tragic, but it's also funny. It's also dark, of course. It's also kind of bottomless, and yeah, it has everything in it for me. So the other one people often like is Lear, and I watched Lear and read Lear earlier this week. And I think I'm still not quite fully on board with well, I'm on board with it, but I do at a certain point get a little bored with it, to be honest. This is probably a heresy But I think somewhere in the third and fourth acts, as he's wandering around, it's great stuff. But I think it gets a little bit long. Okay, all right, all right, all right. Go ahead, unsubscribe. I think it just drags a tiny bit. Okay. Number 12, tag other booktubers. All right. I'm gonna. A lot of people have done this. I'm gonna tag some who joined BookTube around the time that I did. So maybe they didn't do it last year, or some that for personal reasons I'm curious to see what they would say. So I'm going to tag Libro Paradiso. I'm going to tag David Novak. I'm going to tag Jenny Parks. I'm going to tag Reading Ideas, Mega Whopping Cosmic Bookworm, Sterling Reads That Reading Guy Must Read More, Troy Tredup, Elder Talk, Just Book Girl TV, Sleepy Book Reader, Noteworthy Fiction, Strange Mentality Paper, The Limitless Librarian, The Mild Rumpus, Tom L.A. Books, and The Ginger Bibliophile. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Get that caught? No, I can't say that one. Okay, bye.